Okie doke. This video is going to be the longest of the batch, the assessment page, just because there's a lot of little things to kind of chit chat about. So it's also the least yellow, which is nice. So I'm going to go through this not super fast, but probably not with the detail that the first day of class will have. And you can always ask me more questions about the first day of class if you want. When you see me, you can send me emails about this. Warm-up assessments. These are really simple. I do these every day when class starts. If you're there for them, you do them. If you're not there for them, you don't do them. They don't count against you if you're not there for one and you don't do it. A lot of times students will show up late and they don't have time to do the warm-up. Totally fine. You just don't do it that day. If you do it, it's worth 5 points towards your grade, and that's it. That's it. We'll talk more about that later when we get into quizzes and everything else. So that's warm-ups. They take anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. It all depends on what the warm-up has. Sometimes warm-ups become part of class, which is actually kind of cool. All right. Quizzes. This is the one that I think confuses students the most at first. They hang of it pretty quickly. I am going to offer you somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 35 quizzes this term. There will be some offered in class. There will be some linked from the schedule page. Let's go back out here and take a look on this. Even in this first week, you've got quizzes linked, website quiz and quiz on quiz points. Okay, so you're going to have, usually on average, if I remember correctly, it's 2 quizzes per week on average. So that's 20 quizzes right there, plus anywhere from 5 to 10 quizzes in class, depending on how many I write. Your job by the end of the term is to do 10 of them. Minimum 10, right over here. Minimum 100 points towards overall grade. You can do more. Right down here, if you want to look at this link, mathematically I explain to you why you might want to do more. So, quizzes, you got to do 10 by the end of the term, but essentially all of them are optional. You can look at them, and if you like the topic, you can do the quiz. If you don't like the topic, you don't have to do the quiz. I'm going to assess you in other ways for the topics on those quizzes. But students like this, and I like it for a number of reasons. Number one, well, I'm not going to get into that right now because another page gets into that. But so quizzes, you have to do 10 by the end of the term. We'll keep it simple for this video. Okay, so that's quizzes. Projects. There are 4 of these sprinkled throughout the schedule page. Does that link work? It still does. Good. So if you look, one's in week 3. One is in week 6. Right there. Sometimes they have spreadsheets that go along with them. One is in week 8, and one is in week 10. There you go. There are the 4 projects. Okay? So those are extensions of stuff we talk about in class. Most of them are historically or realistically or temporally tied to events that I have done or experienced or helped people with. But they're just more ways to show how math can be used and be useful for folks. Okay. So there's 4 of them scattered throughout the term. There are 25 points a pop. They're worth 25 points a pop, 100 points total towards your overall grade. I put a little note over here about W's. You can read that bit here. You can also read about it on the FAQ page, which we'll get to in a second. All right, and last but not least, exams. There will be 2 of these. I usually put them in week 5 and week 11. I scatter them. They are not your normal math exam. They're not the kind you sit down in class and I stare at you for 2 hours while you use your pencil and your calculator, and that's not what they are. They are like projects and like out-of-class quizzes. They are take-home assessments. Okay, you can work on them with other people, with me, with tutors. You can use online resources to help you with these things. So they are non-traditional, definitely, assessments. As a matter of fact, calling them exams is a bit of a stretch. What they really are summative, cumulative assessments. That's a better word, but exams is easier to say. So there's 2 of those, like I said. If we take a look on the schedule page, there's room for one. Yep, there's room for one in week 5, and then there's room for one in week 11, right there. Yep, they're not linked yet because this is week 2, and I haven't actually built them yet. So that's the 4 assessments. That's the 4 assessments. What I like to do for the rest of and you can always email me questions if something doesn't make sense about them. I want to talk about Blackboard now, because Blackboard is where you're going to submit most of your assessments for this class. Most of them. Except for warm-ups done in class, which are usually handed to you as a paper I make and then handed back to me, something I can grade. And also in-class quizzes, which are generally the same thing. Everything else needs to be submitted in Blackboard. Okay, and actually, you know what? I'm going to make this its own video because I think it's important enough to make it its own video. All right, so let's stop here.